I have a second channel, Cube Comp MTDX. Hey everybody, here we have a control module out of a Jeep Grand Cherokee that controls the headlights as well as the interior light brightness levels and fog lamps. So this would fit a 96 to 98 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It may also fit the 93 to 95, though not 100% certain, because that year model, those years are a little different. Those were the earlier ZJ models. So the issue I was having with mine was this switch here. You got to slide up and down. Of course, I always leave mine at maximum. Sometimes when I hit a bump, my interior dash lights, like on the cluster and stuff, would get real dim, and sometimes hit another bump and they would just flicker, kind of flicker in brightness, get bright, dim, bright, dim. And if I press and hold this switch in, they'd stay bright. Now this unit here is actually a different one. I'll explain that in a moment. So today I pulled mine out and swapped it in with this one. This one had far more issues. Matter of fact, with this one, the dash lights refused to even work when the headlights were switched to either parking lights or headlamps. So yeah, the only thing that this was controlling and actually allowing to work was the main headlights. So also I should mention that anytime I hit a bump, or if I press this in, I'd hear a click and a relay, which would turn the fog lamps on and off. And I noticed the fog lamps were not staying on. They would sometimes just shut off. So this thing had far more problems than the one it replaced. So the original is back in the Jeep now. I took it out and I touched up the soldering joints on the back of the circuit board. So this unit, once you get, so on the dash side, the driver's side dash, you have to take around the mold, take out the moldings, run the cluster as well as the molding under the steering wheel. I do not have a video of doing this, but I'm sure there are plenty of videos online on YouTube to look at on how to do this. Pretty much any video that describes how to replace the gauge cluster or take the instrument cluster out to, let's say, change the lights would give you enough information on getting to this. But once you get to this, there's a screw here and a screw here, and this whole thing comes out as an assembly, and back here you have this plug. Now I've already taken the cover off of this because I'm about to show you something, but when it comes out of your vehicle, it's going to look something like that, like this right here. So since I was able to get my first one repaired, I've tried to take the opportunity to open this one up, and I'm noticing already the issues that were causing our problems with this one. And I think it was probably the same issue, the same cause of problems with the other one as well, but not as severe. So when you look here, you'll see, you look at some of these joints, these solder joints, you'll see hairline cracks. Now these may not be that bad, but if you look over here at this main connector where it's soldered in, you see bad joint there, bad joint there. You'll see cracks in the joints, and what happens is when you get those cracks in the joints, you get an intermittent connection or no connection at all. As you see, we've completely lost connection with this dimmer switch, which explained the kind of bizarre behavior with it. I mean, it was barely making connection. You can see I can actually move these joints around because they've broken loose from the original solder. So what we're going to do is we're going to touch these up and repair them, and if this is going on with your vehicle, this would likely fix your problem. Now, so as I mentioned, this came from, if I did mention, this came from a parts yard. I went and actually pulled this off of a different Jeep. Didn't know if it worked or not. Just pulled it and brought it home. And it's sat in the back of my Jeep for a while, and I decided to go ahead and swap it in today. And now I discovered all the problems that it has. So apparently this may be a common thing with these vehicles, and any older car this can happen with the electronics. You can get bad solder joints. So my soldering iron is heating up. Now I should mention that the digital information center that's situated below the climate controls and radio, I had to replace mine with a used one off of eBay several years back, and then I had more issues with it displaying coolant sensor bad. And all it was is similar to this, bad solder joints on the connector, on the piece that holds the connector that goes into the circuit board here. So, I know I've been talking a lot, so I'm just trying to explain things. If you have one of these vehicles, this may be a way that you could fix your problem. So, soldering iron is up to temperature. What I'm going to do is I'm going to touch up each of these joints. All I got to do is briefly melt the solder and let it flow back to its intended spot, and we should be good. In some cases we may have to add some solder. So we just heated that up, and that one actually could use more solder. I noticed this with mine as well. It's like they only added just enough solder to make it work. And I'll tell you what, Chrysler, that's a shame. This unit may have lasted for 20 years, but once it turned 21 years old, it may have called it quits. I'm just adding some solder to this joint. Joint looks a lot better now compared to what it did look like. So I'm just going to touch all these up. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have a way of testing this specific unit, but I'm pretty certain this would fix any problems, or most, if not any problems that you would have with one of these, or any sort of electronic component in your vehicle. I tell you, the solder on this one is not that great at all. It's pretty bad off, which would explain why it has gotten said. Would explain why all these joints have failed, like they have. Now I'm not sure if they used lead-free solder or leaded solder, but what I'm using right now to touch this up is actually it contains lead. I should mention this was, of course, I think this specific unit came out of a 1998 Grand Cherokee Limited. The overall condition of the vehicle was not that great. I think they, well, for one thing, it looked pretty bad off, but this unit looked okay, and so I grabbed it. Well, turns out it wasn't all that good of a unit. So if you aren't really familiar with soldering, I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there on YouTube that go over the basics. So yeah, through-hole soldering is probably among the easiest kind of soldering you can do. Again, it's like on some of these joints, they just didn't put enough solder on them to begin with. So continue what I was saying earlier about the solder. I'm not sure if they used lead-free or lead-containing solder in this, but the thing about lead-free solder is sometimes it's not known to be the most reliable long term. Now my solder joints probably ain't the best, but probably the absolute best thing you could do would be to completely desolder some of these joints and just put fresh solder on them. But a lot of times just reheating the solder that's there and letting it remelt can do the trick. I'm going to actually put some tip thinner on this iron. I will say this, it seemed like the quality of the solder that was on the one that came out of my Jeep was far better than this. It melted real easy, it flowed real good. It must have been made on a Tuesday. This one must have been made on a Friday. That joint there looks okay, but I'm going to hit it anyway. That joint, I can see a crack in it. Some of those bigger joints can take a little bit longer to heat up. But what I'm doing, I'm just adding a little bit of fresh solder to these. This is one of the problem ones right here. And it seemed like it was pretty lacking in solder. It already looks a whole lot better. I think part of what happens here is the solder likes to flow through the hole. These holes are, I think, a little bit too large. There, that's better. So I'm not going to touch every single joint in this thing. I'm just going to touch up the ones that appear to have issues. Which in this unit, a lot of them do. And I'll say it's no wonder this unit had problems. So after these repairs, this unit may be as good as new. Yeah, guys, I think the quality of the solder used and the quantity of solder used helped contribute to the problems that this unit was having. I think that pretty much wraps up for this one. I think the rest of the joints are still okay. So here's a closer look at all the repairs. definitely a lot better than it was, I'll say that. Yeah, a lot of times with automotive components, like automotive electronics like this, these parts, they see big temperature swings, especially during the wintertime. It's not like something that's indoors in a climate controlled area. Stuff like this, when it's exposed to big temperature swings, it can accelerate degradation of solder joints. So with electronic components like this that experience big temperature swings, it's important that the quality and quantity of solder is good. It's critical that the quality is, the quality of solder and the amount used is decent enough to help prevent joints from cracking and going cold over time. So, if you have one of these units like this and you're having problems with it, it's very likely that you have bad solder joints in the back of the circuit board. So, like I mentioned, I'm not going to rip my Jeep back apart to test this thing, considering I fixed the other one that's working fine. But I will keep this as a spare in case I do need it. And I'm thinking that this here probably did resolve the problems I was having with it. So if you have one of these and you have some experience with soldering, it should be a pretty easy fix. So here's the back of this unit all put back together. I may have, earlier when I started out with this video, I may have placed this component on top backwards as reference to what it looked like put together, but this is what it actually looks like when it's put together. So anyways, if you're having issues with your headlight controls or your interior light brightness controls in your Grand Cherokee, or if you're having similar problems with other electronic components in any older vehicle, this could be a possibility of what's going on. You could have bad solder joints. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well guys, that's it for this one. But it doesn't have to be. There's plenty more videos on the channel to check out. Also, if you liked the video, please click the like button. And if you absolutely hated it, there is the alternative button as well. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And remember to click the bell so that we get notified of all updates. Also, if you're interested in things aside from computers and technology, check out my second channel. It's Cube Comp MTDX. Over there you'll find videos about weather, elevators, bicycling, and pretty much whatever else I figure out to upload. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for your support.